This right here is the Blackstar IDX50. Now, some people are calling this the Katana Killer. Wait. I can't make that claim because I don't own a katana.
But he does.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Good to see you. It's 1 watt cranked up. It's great.
Well, we're both going to dive deep into the IDX50 to see what it's all about.
Dan the man, thank you for having me here in the Lonely Rocker environment. This is awesome, and I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm Dan, the self-proclaimed Lonely Rocker, covering all things guitar and guitar gear related. So thank you so much for joining me today. And that's my good friend Amit. He's graciously offered his time today as a longtime user of the Boss Katana.
Doesn't really matter.
Anyways, I'm going to put him in front of the camera cold with no preparation. He's going to plug in. He's going to try out the IDX50 to see what it's all about and give us his honest impression.
This is awesome. I brought my katana, so I'm really excited for this.
Now, this is Blackstar's latest DSP modeling amplifier with a built-in speaker, which is why it's getting a comparison to that Boss product. But there's something very different about this. We'll see if you catch it. I'll address that a little bit later. If you do, just let me know in the comments. Anyways, being a digital amplifier that also has a speaker, you can use it as a traditional amplifier, but it has a built-in audio interface with a USB-C connection. So if you like recording, you can connect this directly to your computer. And that's what I'm going to do to start, just to give you an idea what this can do. We're going to rock out a little bit with this ESP LT Deluxe Phoenix 1000. Let's check it out. All right, that sounded pretty great to me. I'm going to break down the features of this amplifier a little bit later, but it's time to give Amit a go. And to start, he needs to choose a weapon.
All right, this is like being in guitar heaven right now. So we got the Schecters, LTD, the Balaguer, got the Sewer, beautiful. Ibanez, Gibson, oh, you got everything. I think I am going to choose the Schecter Solo 2 Custom and give this a shot. Beautiful guitar, and I'm going to go with this.
You're going in cold on the Blackstar IDX50.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to let you play around a little bit, and he's never played this before. This is the first time. I haven't even let him turn it on. So let's plug in and see what you can do.
That's nice. I like that. You know what I liked at Blackstar did? They added some beef to this.
So this first segment was just to get Amit into the amplifier, just let him play around. He was switching through some presets. I didn't even bother to mic the amplifier. What you're hearing is actually coming through the camera mic, but I just wanted to capture his honest first impression. Now later on, I hooked up these mics so we can get a feeling of this amplifier in the room. You've already heard a little bit of USB-C recording. Just want to give you a full 360 view of the amp.
That's beefy. That's got some beef to it. Oh man, yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's cool. I really like the tone of this. It sounds really beefy. Ozzy. That's a great tone. That's a fantastic tone. I really like that.
So after playing around a little bit, Amit sort of dove into the amp further. There's actually an app that accompanies the amplifier called Architect. So he got into that, was playing around with presets and customizing effects and things like that, and just really seeing what this amp has to offer.
Throw some delay on that. Nice, I like that. Yeah, it's got some pretty cool effects here. I like this. Give a little more feedback, see how hardcore we can get with this. Throw this up in the mix. Tape echo.
So we're going to get back to Amit shortly. He's going to bring in his Boss Katana. We're going to do a side-by-side to see what he really thinks, so make sure you stay tuned to that. But I want to get in on the action here. I'm going to give you another example of a recorded tone. Now, this section of the amp here is the voice section, and hint, hint, that's the area that I find philosophically very different than the Boss Katana. I'll talk about that more a little bit later, but you can dial in your principal tone here. We have a bunch of different column channels. You've got 2 overdrive channels, crunch, super crunch. You've got a clean channel. So the core of your tone, you'll dial it in here, and then you can control that with the standard amp controls EQ that you have here on the unit itself. Of course, you can also control that with the amp. But I want to give you an example of a higher gain tone. I'm going to use this Balaguer Espada Limited, tuned down to drop C sharp. Let's check it out. All right, that sounded really, really good. Now, as I hinted, that section of the amplifiers, what I find is very different than sort of your typical modeling amplifier. Now, a lot of the modelers or modeling amplifiers are going to give you all sorts of different amplifiers emulating all different brands of amplifiers. I went looking through the app and like, hold on, there's something missing here. But no, there isn't. This, in the truest sense, is a Blackstar amplifier, and they're giving you all these different modes. So you've got the gamut of different tones in the spirit of a Blackstar amplifier. You're not going to find Marshalls and Mesa Boogies and things like that in here. You're getting different flavors on a Blackstar amplifier, and I kind of like that. That's certainly an option. I know some devices feel like you have to have like 300 different amplifiers in there, but be honest with yourself. How many of those amps do you think you'll actually use? Where in this case, they've tuned this amplifier. It's a Blackstar amplifier with a bunch of different modes. So you're going to get the range of tones. And then, of course, on top of that, we've got all the effects and things like that, which we will get into. But now it's time to bring in the Boss Katana. We're going to do a side-by-side with Amit's trusty Boss Katana, but this time I'm going to be recording with these guys. This is the Sennheiser MKH8020. It's got a stereo pair. These are great for capturing that in-the-room feel. Not quite as good as being here in the room with us, but certainly will give you an idea. Let's check it out. Now, this is not meant to be a shootout. The Boss Katana is a 100-watt amp. This is 50 watts. He just had some of his presets already pre-saved on his amplifier, and just to sort of get a feel for it, and then in comparison, play this amplifier. So let's roll into that.
Nice. They both sound great. Can't lie. The Blackstar has a bit of beef to it, which I mean, I'm sure I could dial in with the Boss. I've always been happy with the Boss, but the Blackstar sounds great.
All right, let's get back into some recorded tones. There's a clean tone that I noticed Amit kept going back to. It's called Glassy Clean, but I wanted to feature it in the recorded tone section. And that's blended in with sort of classic rock, blues rock, kind of overdriven tones, all courtesy of the Phoenix. Let's check it out. When recording the IDX50 through the USB-C connection, you have the option to select your cabinets in the cab rig section. For this next track, I use the ITR settings for each of the presets. Instead of a typical close mic setup as is also offered here, it gives you more of an amp in the room sound, perhaps much like I'm doing with some of the examples in this video. The IDX50 is a 50-watt multi-channel DSP modeling amp with built-in effects, unique tone shaping features, and Blackstar's Cab Reg Cab IR system that gives you a great selection of Blackstar cabinets and microphones over USB or headphones. But in the room, the amp blazes through the onboard Anthem 50 12-inch speaker, giving you that true amp in a room vibe. Digging into the specific features of the amp, it has to start with the OLED screen. This amp was designed to give you control right on board to minimize any dependence on software. The Architect software is great when at home or in your studio, but you can control many of the functions of the amp on board, and the bright screen helps you navigate through this. So when cycling through banks and channels with the onboard buttons, you can clearly see where you are at all times. The IDX50 has a ton of effects grouped into 4 categories: pre-effects, modulation, delay, and reverb. Navigating through this with the Architect software, you can easily see all of these effects, and editing is a breeze. However, right on the amp, it's pretty easy too. You can select the category you want to edit, push this button, and cycle through the options. Once selected, you can easily change the parameters with the dials. And the second dial also functions as a page button if there are more than 2 parameters to control. The tones are set in the voice section with 6 distinct tone settings. ISF stands for Infinite Shape Feature. This is a patented Blackstar feature that changes how the whole tone stack responds. You need to get your hands on it to really feel what it does, but sweeping the dial actually alters other parameters on the amp. Turn to the left, it offers a more American-style response, and turn to the right, it is more British. When sweeping the dial, other parameters, like the EQs for example, will respond differently. This gives you infinite possibilities when factoring all stages of the tone stack, hence the name. Another great feature of this amp is the power setting. You can set the output of the amp to 1 watt, 10 watts, or 50 watts. With the master output set at the same value, here's a relative comparison of the 3 settings. You can also change the power tubes, giving you another layer of customization. There are so many great features on this amp that I couldn't possibly mention them all, but I will mention that it has a great built-in tuner, unlike that other amp. Just sort of as a first impression, plugging into this for the first time.
Really liked it. I love the tones. I loved a lot of aspects about it. I liked that it had tube options. I thought it had I kept repeating myself, a beefy tone to it. And I like that. The software is very intuitive, which I really appreciate. If I was a beginner and just came to the scene with software on the Blackstar, I think it would be easy to use and dial in a nice tone. The tones were already dialed in, so even without the software, just plug it in and it sounded fantastic.
Tube feel.
Yeah, I mean, Boss, I thought it sounded great. I never quite felt, when I compared it to my friends who had tube amps, I never felt like it gave me like that true tube feel, and never really did I expect it to. But I wanted a little bit more. Now I know the Gen 3 has this button called Bloom where it boosts up to a little bit more of a tube feel, which I think is pretty cool. This has 3 options here for tube settings, and I think they dialed in a very close to tube feel. Again, I don't think anything will ever sound like a tube amp unless you have, but it sounded great. And I think it sounded very much, at least close to one would want.
Well, when you first plugged in and just hit that open chord at first, I mean, it had that roar. I mean, I think it caught you by surprise. It caught me by surprise too. So you've kind of touched on it already, the user interface. I mean, Boss Tone Studio, which I have used because I've covered some Boss products here as well. Just first look at Blackstar's version of that.
Blackstar was way more straightforward. It was just very simple to use, had your effects there very easy. To dial in a tone, I found to be very easy. The pedals were just laid out in front of you. I don't know. I think that, if you gave me another few hours, I think I'd be very familiar with it. And I thought it was a great layout. Blackstar did a great job with that.
And one thing you mentioned when you were using this was the screen, because I know that's something that Blackstar's pretty proud of, this OLED screen that they have here.
Yeah, that screen is handy just to see what you're doing. I appreciated that very much.
Because that's one limitation I find with certain modeling products is that even some of the more sophisticated ones that I have here, Fractal, is to find that I need to use the software. Now, I'm at my desk. I mean, this is a recording interface, so it's not an inconvenience. But if I was on stage with that, I would really have to be set up, because I find it a bit confusing. So, but having access on the amp like this, as some don't,
it's very convenient.
Even the new Bosses don't have a screen on them?
I don't believe so, no.
So if there was one lasting impression that you got from the Blackstar IDX 50, what would it be?
I do wish I had maybe another 5 hours with this just to play with it, right? It would be nice because I think I could dive deeper into it. But my initial impression, I was impressed.
All right, well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
So I really don't have much to add to that other than to ask a question. Does something need to be a killer, or does it need to take down a competitive product to be accepted? And I really don't think so. I think what the Blackstar IDX 50 has going for it is the less is more approach. There is no shortage of features on here, but it's not going to inundate you with options. Some people like that, but I like the simplicity of this amplifier, yet I didn't feel frustrated. I always felt I was able to do what I set out to do, and I think that's the sign of a really great product. So kudos to Blackstar, making a great sounding amplifier, making something versatile, but something that I think will be usable for a wide range of players. But it doesn't matter what I think. Would love to hear your thoughts. What are your expectations on a digital amp like this? Let me know in the comments. So a big thank you goes out to Amit for spending time with me today. Really appreciated his insight. Perhaps we'll see him again on the channel sometime soon. And a big thank you to Blackstar for providing the amp and sponsoring this video. My opinions are always my own, and I had a guest here and his opinions were his own. So hopefully you got a good perspective on this. But if you have any questions, any thoughts at all, that's what the comment section is for. But if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And there's a video here on screen. Well, it's about this guitar that we feature here today. This was the deal of the century. If you want to hear that story, you can check out that video. But remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. And that's I think I'm going to go check out Blackstar's website. They also make some pretty killer tube amps. I'm going to go salivate over a couple of those. Anyways, I hope to catch you in the next one.